Home is where the heart is, so bring your heart home. By now, you've probably noticed that I was born differently. I was born permanently attractive. At least that's what my mom tells me. Put me in any room and I just feel at home. People notice my cool arm or my openness to connect and talk, and boom, I have a new best friend. Add to the fact that I broke a world record, I'm in a bunch of magazines, and I even did a TV show with Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. I am really, really cool on paper. Because you see, feeling at home is relatively new for me. So let me take you back to my life and how it used to be before I learned to find home anywhere I go. Ew, look at his hand, that's disgusting. Look at his arm, that's so gross. You're so nasty, you're a monster. Honestly, you should just kill yourself. That was Patrick, one of the many kids who made fun of me for the way I was born. Something I couldn't control. My entire life, I felt like I had underwear on the outside of my pants and I could do nothing about it because of the condition that I was born with. I tried so hard to fit in with everyone else, but I just never felt at home. And even after a half decade of bullying, I thought everything was turning out great because at 14, I finally worked up the courage to ask out the prettiest girl in school, Crystal. To be fair, there was only 3 girls in my school, and my beautiful now girlfriend wasn't one of them, but I remember walking up to Crystal's desk. I was so confident and excited. I looked back at my friends, and they're all laughing. I'm like, guys, stop. You're going to mess this up. Until I realized why they were laughing. Because when I turned back around, Crystal was making fun of my hand with a stapler, calling me Clawboy. She humiliated me in front of the entire class, and she broke my already broken heart. I hid my hand for 17 years after that moment, in my pocket and in a glove. I felt more like a monster in a cage than a kid with a home. I couldn't stand the sight of myself. I hated feeling broken and useless and helpless and less than. But worst of all, I hated feeling embarrassed that my parents had a kid who looked like me. There was no place for me. No place felt like home. I hated being around people with disabilities because they weren't hiding, but I hated being around people without disabilities because I needed to hide around them. There was no place for me, and I thought there never would be. I thought there never would be. Have you ever felt this sense of existential homelessness? This feeling that no matter where you go, you just don't fit in. Or maybe you're like me, and you know exactly what it's like to be in a room full of people and still feel completely alone. I ran away from home emotionally for 17 years until I met a little girl with diabetes who changed my life. I was speaking at an event with 1,000 people at the Disney Resort, but I spent all day with this little girl who was just diagnosed with diabetes. She followed me around like a puppy. We had literally the best day. I remember walking down this long corridor, and she was walking to my left, which was already strange, but it wasn't a problem until she grabbed my hand that I was hiding and was swinging it carelessly. I froze. I wanted to disappear. But before I could do anything, she looked up at me and she smiled and she said, "It's okay. You don't have to hide around me." That broke me in the best way possible. 1,000 people were there to hear me speak, but she's the only one who actually saw me. In that moment, she taught me a lesson that changed everything. She invited me back home to myself. She made me feel comfortable enough to stop hiding and to bring my heart home. that I was enough, that belonging is felt before it is found. You see, you'll never find home if you're too busy running away from it, because you can't fix what you're not willing to face. Shortly after that, I stopped hiding my hand. That was 4 years ago, and started living my life at 27 years old. For so long, I thought I was angry and depressed, when in reality, I was just homesick. And I find that a lot of us are homesick, sick of home being nowhere we look, sick of not bringing our heart home. We so desperately crave what we want from others, but we refuse to give it to ourselves. Acceptance. Self-acceptance is the answer to belonging anywhere you go. And self-acceptance is not earned from others, but it's learned by you. George Moore said, "A man will travel the world in search of what he needs, only to return home to find it." You need to bring your heart home. Maybe home is where you can take your underwear off. Maybe home is where you don't need to put on underwear in the first place. I'd invite you all to take your underwear off, but that would probably create more problems. So instead, you can help me in leaving this exactly where I started. Home is where the heart is, so bring your heart home. Thank you, everyone.